In this video, we're going to take a look at Form B of Chapter 2 in Math 1108. And hopefully you're developing a pattern of what to do as you look at a test item. So here it's to determine whether an ordered pair is a solution to the given equation. So what do you do? Well, you substitute for x, the 4, so this would be 4 minus 6 squared plus here a negative 4 plus 3 squared equals 5. So this is going to give you a negative 2 that you're going to square, which would be a 4. This is going to give you a negative 1 that you're going to square, which will give you a positive 1. And 5 equals 5. So, yes. Now you'll see in this one, this is an equation in standard form, and they're asked us to graph it. Well, when it's in standard form like this, a good technique we had mentioned is to make a special X and Y-intercept t-chart, so that if X is 0 here, Y is going to be 2. This is 0, just divide both sides by 16. Now if Y is 0, we're going to divide both sides by 8 and get 4. So our y-intercept is 0, 2, which is right there. And our x-intercept is 4, 0, which is right there. So for this one, example B. In this example, we're asked to give the y-intercept and the x-intercepts of the graph, and where the formal way to write it would be 0b for the y-intercept and a 0 for the x-intercept. Here they're only asking for the a or the b value. So here it's an a value, negative 6. Here this is an b value, which is 3. Here is an x value, which is 1. And here is another x value, that is 6. So when you match this up, you get letter A. And you're keeping in mind that as we do these, you can pause the video to try it on your own first, and then listen to the explanation. So here we're asked to find from this particular parabola the x and y intercepts. So this is background. So you might say, well, what technique? Well, I think we can use a t-chart. Now, keep in mind, we're going to get one y-intercept, and we're going to get two x-intercepts. So what would be the strategy? Well, if we wanted the y-intercept, x would have the value of 0. So if x is 0, y is going to be a -3. Now if y is 0, and let me write it this way, x squared minus 3 equals 0. So we're going to transpose the -3 to the other side where it becomes positive, and then we take the square root of both sides. So 1 will be a positive square root of 3, and 1 would be a negative square root of 3. So here is your y-intercept as -3, and this is the negative square root of 3, and this is the positive square root of 3. So these are your intercepts, and when you match it up, it's letter C. But this is how you get to it. In this example, you're asked to select the graph of this function. And again, going into your tool bag, you're wondering, well, what do we know here? Well, recall we had said that if this were just x to the third, and we had to graph it, it would look like so. That is, it would go through the origin, and that's why there is no value here, because it's 0. So that takes it through the origin. So this is the typical shape of your y equals x to the third. Well, now we see that it's y equals this minus 2. So what does that mean? Well, that means we're going to shift this, if it were just this, to the minus 2 here, to a -2. So we see this is a positive 2. This looks like a positive 3, so these are not good. Now here we can see this looks like a -3, and this looks like a -2 right here. So this one is showing promise. And now we see that inside we have this value that's being cubed. Now the question is, does this shift it to the right, positive, or do we use opposite sign, negative? Well, if you remember, it shifts it to the left. So it shifts it to -3, which is right there. So C is the graph of this function, with a little background. Again, if you put this into your graphing calculator of some type, the answer is letter D. And if you were to graph it, it would be a curve, series of curves going through a -4, -2, -1, a 1. So something like that. I didn't draw this to scale, but again, all you had to do was, in a sense, find the zeros. Looking at number 7, Again, this is sort of an easy one. We have current, I, and resistance, R. Find the current if the resistance is 1. So we go to resistance 1 up here, and we find that our current is 1.5, which is letter D. Now we're pulling up some stuff from Math 1103. Here they're giving us the slope, and they're giving us the y-intercept, and they want us to put that in slope-intercept form, which was y equals mx plus b. Well, it's going to be y equals a negative 5/3 x plus 37/3. We're just going to replace in the slope-intercept form the slope and the given y-intercept, which is letter A. Now, here we have an equation in standard form, and they want us to find the slope and the y-intercept. Well, in a case like this, we would solve for a positive y. And we start it by moving the x to the other side, and now dividing everything by a negative 5. So this is y equals a negative divided by a negative makes it a positive. And we see here we have our slope, which is 4/5, and our y-intercept, which is 18/5, and that is letter D. But the technique is to solve for a positive y, and then using your slope-intercept form can just pick out the slope and your y-intercept. Now, looking at this particular graph, it's a graph of a horizontal line, and the equation would be in the form of y equals b, and our y-intercept here is -3. So this is y equals -3. And what is the slope of any horizontal line? We said it was 0. Now the slope of a vertical line, which is x equals a, is undefined. And then the slope of a negative line looks like so. And the slope of a positive slope is like so. A little background. Now in this next one, they're asked to find the x and y-intercepts. So a little t-chart. X and y-intercepts. So if x is 0, this is 0, we're going to divide both sides by a -12. We get y equals -2. And if y is 0, this is a 0, divide both sides by 6, this is 4. So 0, -2, which is right there, and then 4, 0, which is right there. So we have found the intercepts, and this is our graph. So it happens to be letter A, and a good technique is this that we've illustrated before. Now the strategy for finding whether these lines would be parallel, perpendicular, or neither, where they're giving us 2 points, is we need to find the slope of this line and the slope of this line, and then compare the slopes. So I'll give you a chance to do it, and then I'll do it. So setting up this set of points in the slope formula, I get m is 5 over 5, or m equals a positive 1. And setting these up, I get m equals 2 over negative 2, which is a negative 1. So as we look at the slopes, are they the same? No. So the lines are not parallel. When we multiply the slopes, does that give us a product of a negative 1? Well, 1 times a negative 1 is a negative 1. If that is true, then the lines are perpendicular. And that's what we have here. Now, for this one, we have 2 points, and they want us to find an equation in standard form once we determine this slope. So it'll be 4 minus a minus 1 is plus 1. Negative 1 minus a minus 3 is a plus 3. So this gives us a 5 over 2. We now take our 5/2, put that in our equation over here, and our x, we can use this one, and our y, we can use this one. So now to get rid of our fractions, we're going to multiply everything by the lowest common denominator, 2. Now here the 2's just cancel out. So we now have 2y plus 2 equals 5x plus 15. And we want to put that in standard form, so it's a negative 5x, as we transpose that, plus 2y. We transpose this, or subtract 2, is 13. Now as we look at this, none of the equations look like this. And here's a case where apparently they want to have your a term here, which is a negative 5 positive. So we do that simply by multiplying each term by a negative 1, which changes the sign. So this will become 5x minus 2y equals a negative 13, so that when we match it up, we get letter A. Now notice in the other test, they left it as a negative, which I question because usually they want it as a positive. But this is something you can work with. The technique of just multiplying every term by a negative 1 changes all the signs. Now number 14, a little twist. Here they're giving you 1 point, but now they want an equation that is perpendicular. So in order to find out what our slope of this line is, we have to solve for a positive y. So we get a 9 negative 9y equals, transpose this. This on this side becomes a positive 2x. And then we have a negative 44 that we don't really need to concern ourselves with. We're going to divide both sides by a negative 9 now. So we end up with a positive y equals the slope of a negative 2/9 x. Well, if our parallel line is a negative 2/9, what would be the slope of a perpendicular line? Well, it would be opposite sign and then the reciprocal of this, or just flip it. So our new slope is going to be a positive opposite sign, flip this, 9/2. So we then put that into our point slope form. Y minus, a minus 6 gives us a positive 6, equals our new slope, 9/2 times x, minus, a minus 5 gives us a positive 5. We're going to multiply everything by 2. Here the 2's just cancel out. So we have then 2y plus 12 equals 9x plus 45. We're going to transpose the 9. Let's do it over here. Negative 9x plus 2y. And we're going to subtract 12 here, subtract 12 there. This gives us a positive 33. Again, as we look up here, we don't see any that are like this. So we're going to change all the signs by multiplying every term by a negative 1. This gives us 9x minus 2y equals a negative 33. And we see we get letter B. And there's the work needed to support that answer. Now for number 15, in the other test they gave us the formula, but here they're not giving us a formula to convert things. So I went online and I didn't remember it. I'm not sure what they would do, or that you should have that formula, but it's a 9/5 C plus 32 equals Fahrenheit. So we're going to go 9/5 times 18, which is our Celsius reading, plus 32 will equal our Fahrenheit. Well, we multiply this, divided by 5, add 32, and we end up with exactly 64.4. So the key to this one is the formula. Remember, this could also be read that Fahrenheit equals 9/5 C plus 32. It's just backwards. Okay. Now for number 16, I don't believe that's in our curriculum, so I'm going to skip it. Let's go to solve the inequality and graph the solution. All right, here, when we solve an inequality, everything is the same as if you were to solve an equation, except if you have to divide by a negative or multiply your unknown by a negative. If you do that, you have to reverse the inequality sign. So here this is straightforward. Y will be less than or equal to, we're just going to subtract 2 from both sides, 9. So again, on a graph, our number is 9. What sign do we use here? Well, this is less than or equal to, so it will face left and be a bracket, indicating that the 9 is included in the answer, and then it goes to the left because it's less than, and it is letter A. Because in interval notation, this would be from negative infinity up to 9 with a bracket. And that's the graph. In number 18, as we look at this function, can be used to determine cost. So you're looking for an inequality in which the cost will be no more than this. So less than or equal to this. So what we do is we replace the y with this. So we just transpose the 0.40 to the other side and get 239.40 equals 0.005x. Now to solve for x, we're just going to divide both sides by 0.005. And this is where a calculator comes in there very handily. And lo and behold, when we do that, it comes out to be this number right there. So it has to be greater than 0, of course, and less than or equal to this. So B is our answer. All right, in number 19, we're looking again for a comparison that if you paid 10 cents a mile and you do X is the number of miles, $60 a day, and you have the other one where it's 17 cents a mile, at $25 a day, where would be a point where above that the 10 cents a mile would be a better deal than that? And again, you're renting the car. Here's the tricky part here. For 1 week, which is 7 days. So when we solve this, we get 0.07 by subtracting 0.10x from both sides. Subtract 25 from both sides, and we get 35. And then we divide both sides by 0.07. We get x equals 500. But that's for 1 day. And again, you've rented it for 7 days, and this is the tricky part. You have to then multiply 500 times 7, which gives you 3,500. And that would be letter B. So if you drive more than 3,500 miles in a week, then this is your better deal. All right, now the last one is sort of tricky. And again, I don't think this is in our curriculum here, where we're going to find something about it, but I noticed it doesn't really tell me what it wants. And looking at the answer key, I see it is letter C. Now, one of the things is whenever you have a value like this in the denominator, you have to exclude those values that make your denominator a 0. And since this is an inequality, and again I would know how to solve this, we'll pass that up for now. And again, I don't think this is in your curriculum.